adding a Valley charity to your estate plan creates a lasting legacy that tells future generations what causes matter to you. Your action will inspire others to follow your lead and make a difference. With a planned gift, you have the power to impact the Valley community forever without affecting your current lifestyle. Learn more at valleygivesback.org, an initiative of the Valley Community Foundation. Plan now, give later, and impact tomorrow at valleygivesback.org.
Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Valley Sports Rewind. I'm Mike Cannici, and today I'm honored because we have a very special guest. His journey to Shelton football began in 1981 as a member of the Shelton football team from 1981 to 1984, and he was also the quarterback for the 83 and 84 Housatonic League champion Shelton Gaels. He would go on to coach as an assistant under Coach Joe Bonanto, where he was a member of 3 state titles, and he's currently going into his 14th season, I believe, at Shelton High as head coach, and we are honored to have Mr. Jeff Roy. And Coach, I want to thank you for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
So, Coach, let's get right there to 1981. It's kind of funny because I think Bob Riggio took over in 1980 as football coach for Shelton. So, in a lot of ways, when you came in 1981, that group of your classmates really was his first real team, because, that first year you're kind of coaching somebody else's kids, but it really began when you guys were freshmen. So let me just ask you, how did a love for Shelton football begin for you?
Probably started there in 1980, 81. I started playing freshman football, and Tony Branca and Dennis Wanzi were my freshman football coaches, who long-time Shelton football guys. And, I had moved up from Bridgeport. My parents had lived in Bridgeport. We moved up to Shelton.
Oh, wow.
And then, I started in the Pop Warner program for a year or two, and then into freshman football. But I didn't know a lot about, the history of the Shelton football and the Shelton Derby rivalry until kind of, my freshman year when I went in there. And Bob Riggio had taken over the program, and Shelton struggled a little bit in the 60s, late 60s and 70s, and Riggio kind of came in and, I want to say, turned the program around. And we got thing going, and my senior year was pretty much like the first 4-year class that he had.
Right.
And, it was a pleasure to play for him. We had a great group of guys, and he was an excellent football coach and taught us a lot. And it was great memories of playing Shelton football.
Right. Now, let me ask you, did you become a quarterback right away in Pop Warner, or did it happen in high school?
It happened in high school. I played running back and receiver in Pop Warner, and then even on the freshman team, Walt Oko was the quarterback. And Walt was a great football player, but really wasn't a quarterback. We didn't have a quarterback in the class.
Right.
And Coach Riggio came after my freshman year and said, listen, we're going to move you to quarterback. You're a pretty good athlete. We want to play you at quarterback, and sent me to quarterback camps over the summer. So my sophomore year was the first year of my playing football as a quarterback.
Right. Now, let me ask you, a lot of people I talked to who played quarterback over the years, some liked it, but some didn't for a couple reasons. But the biggest one was, they felt like it's a lot of pressure because you have a lot of responsibilities. Did you feel that right away in the beginning?
No, I just loved playing football. I just wanted to be out there, and anything I do for the team and make the team better, and whatever the coach wanted. If he said, I want you to play quarterback, I said, yes, sir, coach. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And it was just fun. I just enjoyed playing the game of football and being out there. And if he wanted me to be a quarterback, I would do the best I can. Right.
And now, did you have a love for the other sports as well at Shelton High? Or?
Yeah, I played baseball also.
So
played for Eddie Morocco, and really enjoyed that. So we were, back in the day, it wasn't all the sports that the kids have now. We were pretty much football, baseball players back in the day. So I played baseball and enjoyed playing.
Right. And, when you started playing Pop Warner, I would say it was probably 78, 79.
Yep.
Shelton had some good rivalries. Obviously, Derby, that was their big rival. But Ansonia, they had Seymour. Let me ask you, as a kid who was in 7th and 8th grade, attending those games for the first time, did you get that excitement? It
was amazing. I could remember. I think 8th grade was the first time I went to a Valley football game.
Right.
And I remember going to see the Ansonia Derby game over there at Derby Field, and there had to be 10 to 15,000 people.
Right.
It was packed. And they're bringing out the horse and all the tradition. And I was just in awe of the game and the tradition and the Valley football and the pride, and that was kind of my first introduction to it way back when, and I kind of fell in love with football, Valley football, and playing, and couldn't wait to get to high school and be part of that.
Right. And, the crowds back then, it was ridiculous, like you said. And Derby Shelton, that was always a packed house, too, on Thanksgiving, because you also had a lot of the college kids who came home from school, and you also had, former alumni who may not attend every game, but they would go to that game. So that game, it was, it was almost like a stand-in field when people were at that game.
Yeah, it was amazing. I have great memories from, playing in high school. I remember my senior year, we were both us and Derby were both 8-0 in the Housatonic League, and we were playing for the title. And there was, I read some papers, 12 to 15,000 people there. I remember trying to get onto the field, and they had to delay the game because we couldn't even get on the field. There were so many people packed, and you just kind of looked around, and we were like, wow, this is amazing.
So now the 81 season begins, and it's freshman football. Yep. Let me ask you this. Who did you play for freshman year for the freshman team?
Who
was your coach?
My freshman coaches were Dennis Wanzi and Tony Branca.
And Branca, a lot of people don't realize, and we had him on the show, he's been a part of Shelton football from the time he was a player in the early 70s.
Yep.
And he's still, I think, involved with the program.
He's still involved. He's helping out with the freshmen for me. And, I've known Coach Branca basically my whole life.
So let me ask you this. I always ask former players this. Is it weird to, be coaching with him and he kind of, goes by your lead when you played for him so many years ago? Like, are you able to call him Tony, or is it always Coach still?
It's just Branks.
Branks, right?
Just Branks.
Yeah.
So, no, we've had a great relationship over the years. Yeah. So, we just kind of fall into it. And
he's a great guy, really, loves Shelton sports, just a terrific
bleeds
guy.
Orange and black, that's for sure.
So how was the first season of freshman football as a quarterback? Did you struggle at all, or were you able to adapt pretty quick?
Yeah, like I said, my freshman year, I wasn't. Oko was the quarterback,
right,
so I was playing running back, receiver, and I was just enjoying being there.
And now, did you play defense at all? Because I know at Central you played free safety, but did you play any D?
Yeah, I played defense all through high school. Right. Also, I played in the secondary.
And nowadays, it's a little unheard of for the quarterback to play D, but back then, the quarterback usually went both ways, and you knew that. So, it's a lot of responsibilities, but I think at the same time, you kind of embrace that pressure.
Yeah, we just wanted to be on the field. We were young kids, just wanted to get out there and play. Drag us off the field.
Right.
But yeah, freshman football, that was, again, kind of my first real introduction to Shelton football with Wanzi and Branca.
Right.
And, I grew up with a great group of kids, and we just loved playing. We were just having fun, playing football, enjoying the game. And then, I remember getting brought up for Derby week as a freshman. They brought up a bunch of freshmen.
And you got to dress.
You got to dress for Thanksgiving Day, and just the excitement of being out there. And that was the first time being on the field in a game like that. And it was awesome.
Right. So now the 82 season, now you're a sophomore. And at this point, you had got moved to quarterback by then?
Yeah. Right. The 82 season, I got moved to quarterback my sophomore year, and I started as receiver and defensive back as a sophomore and played the JV games as a quarterback.
So you're kind of, double dipping a little bit.
Yep.
Let me ask you, is it tough to go from a Friday game? Well, back then, Shelton played Saturday games.
Yep.
Was it tough to go from a Saturday game and then go right and play on Monday? Obviously you're sore, things like that.
I was just having fun. I was a kid, just wanting to be on the field.
Right.
And, that was my first experience of playing quarterback, so I was raw. I had no idea what I was doing out there, but I was learning, just having fun playing the game.
Right. And, that year, too, the 82 season, I think Derby and Shelton had a pretty good game against each other. Derby, I believe, won the game, but it was a real good game. And a lot of people, Coach, Derby's had their struggles the last, 15, 20 years, but people forget that rival, it may not have been up there with Derby and Ansonia because those two, that was their rival, but that rival was one of the best in the state. It really was. Yeah. To me, it was the best rivalry on Thanksgiving. Would you agree?
Yeah, without a doubt. Again, the tradition being out there was awesome, and at that point, Derby had our number. Derby had beaten Shelton. I remember it was 8 or 9 years in a row.
I think Coach DeFlippo was 13-2 against Shelton. So 13 out of 15 years. It had been a long time. How would you say the 82 season went for you? I know you played in the varsity receiver and defensive back, but how did you think you did as a quarterback on the JV team? Did you feel confident you could come into the 83 season?
Not really.
No.
Again, it was my first time playing quarterback. I felt confident at the varsity level playing receiver and defensive back because I had played there all through youth. And but as a quarterback, I just, again, I was just learning. So it was, I didn't have a lot of confidence as a sophomore, even in the JV games.
Right.
But I was just learning the position and just trying to do my best.
Right. Now, did Coach Riggio work a lot with you? I mean, was he involved with the quarterback a lot?
Yeah, he had a quarterback coach, Coach Melfi. He played at University of New Haven, and he was my quarterback coach who did a really nice job of coaching us up, and teaching us all the basics back then because I had to start from scratch. And then, again, in the offseason, both the off seasons going into my sophomore and junior year, Coach Riggio sent me to a quarterback camp down in New Jersey.
Right.
Quarterback receiver camp down there, which really helped. I forgot it was 4 or 5 days down there.
Right. And, people forget. I mean, Riggio did a great job with that program. I mean, he really did. I think he was there 8 years. But it's like you said, he really turned it around. It had been struggling. I mean, what was it about Riggio? I mean, obviously X's and O's he knows, but from what I always heard, is he was definitely a big-time motivator.
Yeah, he was a motivator, and he worked you hard, and it just, as a kid, you kind of like that, I mean, at times he may have been a little overboard, especially with the up-downs, and but he kind of got us all together. And back then, football was so much different than it is today. It was everybody's in a wishbone, everybody's in an I formation.
Right. Yeah, there weren't all these spreads.
Who's tougher than who, and who can hammer who, and a lot of pride. He brought a lot of pride and tried to get everybody together and toughness and all the things that Valley football is kind of all about.
Right. So now the 83 season begins. You're a junior now. You're the starting quarterback, and it was a tremendous year for you guys. I believe you guys, if I'm not mistaken, went 8-2. I think you lost.
Yeah,
one game to Ansonia, and was it Seymour
who beat
to
Ansonia? I think it was 8-2.
Right, I think Seymour might have beat you.
Yep.
And Seymour lost to somebody else along the way, and I think you both kind of co-won that Hoosie that year in '83.
Yes, we were co-Hoosie champs in '83.
Talk about the '83 team though, because a lot of people. The '84 team was magical, but that '83 team was a special group of players. I mean, they really worked hard. They went from a team, 2 years prior to, I think, went 5-5 or 6-4, and they really, turned it around quick. Talk about that '83 team.
Yeah, that '83 team, and kind of talked about it over the years, was kind of the team, and it kind of turned it around, turned the corner. From the 5-5, the 4-6 season, and a few losing seasons back then, to the first time beating Derby. I think it was 8 or 9 years, and I think
that was a classic game. I think it was a 7-3 game, correct?
That was a 7-3 game
at Ryan Field.
Walt O'Shea tackled Jeff Rice on the goal line to end the game, or right at the end of the game on a 1-yard line. And again, that was the first time we had beaten Derby in a while, and I think it was the first Housatonic Division championship we had in 22 years, if I remember correctly.
Long time.
So it was kind of a big celebration of okay, Riggio's here. He's kind of turning this thing around. We're getting this thing going in the right direction, and that was a big win. That Derby win in '83, I think, was a big win for the Shelton football program at the time.
Right, and you would go on that year to play against a player for Derby that would end up being your teammate at Central, and he's been a pretty good coach for some odd 25 years in Ronnie Leno. Just talk about Ronnie. I mean, Ronnie's a character, but a great guy, and had to be a pleasure to eventually play with him as well.
Yeah, Ronnie's a great guy. Still great friends with him today.
Right.
And we played against each other in that game. He was a year older than me. He was a senior that year.
Right.
And 2 years later, we were teammates at Central playing in the secondary together up there. And, got to be great friends. And Ronnie's, as you said, Ronnie's a character.
Yeah, and Ronnie was the type of guy. He was 150 pounds, but he played like he was 200.
Oh yeah,
he wasn't afraid to put his head in there.
No, I could remember that. I remember that game vividly, and again, that was my junior year, and going up against those guys, and I remember scrambling one time and running into, I don't know if it was Bartone or Ronnie Leno or Pete Snow and Sadik and all those guys, and man, they hit me so hard. I was seeing stars, as they said. But nowadays, I would have probably been in concussion protocol and out of the game, but it was a physical group of guys, and I'm friends with all those guys now. That's part of the Valley rivalry, and and it was a lot of fun. But there were some tough guys over there at Derby.
Right. And what was that feeling like? Because you're probably a 16-year-old kid at the time. What was the feeling like to win a Housatonic championship, beat your rival to do it, and you won it on their field too? I mean, you must have had to be the best Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it was
you had.
at the time probably the greatest feeling in the world. To finally beat Derby on Thanksgiving, and Riggio had us so motivated and fired up, and we were like, I want to say almost obsessed with beating Derby, and because we hadn't done it in so long, and it was a great feeling, great memories,
Right, and the 83 season comes to a close, and if I remember correctly, you were elected captain, correct, for your senior year?
Yep.
That's a big honor, especially, Shelton's a school. It's not like a school with 300 kids in it. It's a school with 2,000 kids. So, I mean, you could be a great athlete, but there could be maybe 6 or 7 kids better than you because it's such a big school. What was that feeling like to know that, you got elected captain for a school like Shelton?
Yeah, it was a great honor to be elected captain. It's kind of a funny story, and I've told it not that long ago. At first, I wasn't elected captain.
Oh, really?
Bob Riggio was old school, and there were going to be 2 captains, and that's it, no more. So at the banquet, he announced Walt Oko and Frank Pizzicani, who 2 of my best friends, and grew up together, and they were great football players, obviously, and he didn't pick me as one of the captains, which. I was disappointed, but you deal with it, and not a problem, and you move on. And then, right before the first game, he got in the locker room, and we were playing Amity, and he announced in front of the team. He said, I had made a mistake, and we're going to have one more captain on the team, and then he announced me as the captain right before the first game. So,
wow,
good memories.
That's a great story.
Yeah,
and that had to be a good feeling too, because basically. You were showing him all through spring practice before the season had just started that, you were a leader, and he felt, he had to correct that. So that had to be a great feeling.
Yeah, it was a great feeling. Like I said, it was disappointing at the banquet, but then you move on, and I still wanted to be a leader of the team. I was the quarterback, and I just moved on and worked hard and tried to be a leader.
Right. So now that 84 season was another special season, and I believe you guys went 9-1 that year.
Yeah, we went 9-1 that year.
And I think the only loss was to Ansonia.
Yep.
Let me ask you about Ansonia, Coach, since I got you here. Do you, on a personal level, miss that rivalry? I know you guys scrimmage them every year. Do you miss playing them?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
It was it was a great rivalry. I wish we played all the Valley teams still,
Right.
There were great games going back, but it's been a long time now. It's been
since 93. That was the last time.
Yep.
And the thing of it is you guys have had great scrimmages against each other too. I can remember a game in 96. That was a great game. You guys played them a game in 97. So, I mean, to me, that's like a rivalry that should have never went away. Like, I just wish there was a way high school football could find a way to make it happen, but because of the 2 leagues, it's probably impossible.
Yeah, you hear all the I won't say the old timers, but I'm an old timer now. Talk about it and how much it's missed, and how we should be able to find a way to get Ansonia on the schedule. But just with the new leagues and the way things are, just not meant to be. And
you guys had a great rival with Seymour as well. I mean, that was a great rivalry. That's what I mean. Valley football back then, to me, was the best football in the state at the time, because those Valley schools, they may not have been the big schools like, a Hill House, a Wilbur-Cross, schools like that, but those kids played their hearts out every game. I mean, they loved football.
Those were fun games. I mean, you circle those games, obviously, on the calendar. Every year, play Ansonia, Seymour, and those were the big games. The crowds were there, the excitement was there, and it's too bad we're not able to play those teams anymore.
Right. So you have a great season in '84, and I believe you made All-Hoosie, correct, that year? Yeah. So I mean, again, that's to me making something in the league you play in. A lot of people, they'll talk about All-State and stuff. But really, if you make All-Hoosie in a league you play in, that's a great year. And your team goes 9-1, you win the Hoosie. And, I mean, again, you had a good game against Derby. And you played a tough kid in Jeff Rice. And, I mean, not an easy kid to tackle either. So, I mean, just talk about that 84 season for you on a personal level.
Yeah, I mean, it was my senior year, and we had played together, all the kids that I played with since Pop Warner, and we were all looking forward to it. We worked hard all year, and ended up going 9-1. We lost week 2 to Ansonia. It was a great football team as always back then. And it was an exciting year, and again we beat Derby 21-7 on Thanksgiving to win the Housatonic title. And back then, now the league titles, I don't want to say don't mean as much. It's more the state playoffs. And back then, winning a Housatonic title meant a lot. It was like winning a state championship.
Right. And back then, too, only 2 teams from each class would go to the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's not like it is now where there's, I believe, 6, correct?
There's 8 now.
8, yeah. 8.
Yeah,
so,
unfortunately, back then there was only the top 2 teams, and we were 9-1 and didn't get in, which we were disappointed, obviously. But like I said, winning the Housatonic title and beating Derby and that year was tremendous for us, and that was like winning a state championship.
Right. So now you moved on to Central, had a great career at Central. I mean, Let me ask you, what was the difference for you playing high school football as opposed to college football? What was different about it?
It's definitely a different game playing at the college level. In high school you're playing with all your friends that you grew up with. And
you must have played for Buddy Amendola.
Yeah. Buddy Amendola recruited me, and I played my first 2 years for Buddy Amendola. He was a great guy, Valley guy. Love the Valley kids. Recruited a lot of us up there.
Right.
Ronnie Leno and Matt Skoronsky and a bunch of Valley kids played up there. But yeah, I had a great experience playing up at Central. It's just not the same as high school football, playing with your buddies and playing with guys that you grew up with. But it was also a great experience because I met a ton of new people, guys that I'm still friends with today. That went on. A lot of the guys that I played with went on to pro careers as coaches, and I played with Scott Pioli. Who's a general manager now for the Falcons.
Wow, that's crazy.
And a bunch of other guys that did high school coaches. Made a lot of great connections and a lot of good friends from playing up at Central.
Right. Now, did you know as college was coming to a close that you wanted to coach football? Like, did you?
No, absolutely not. Never so crossed my mind.
Talk to us about how did that journey of being a coach begin for you?
Yeah, I left Central. 89 was my last football year, and then 1990 I got an internship. I got a job up in the area, and it never crossed my mind to coach. I never really thought about teaching and coaching. I wanted to go out and make money. You were a kid and went out, and I was a construction management major, and I wanted to start my career. I worked for a company up there, and then I had gotten laid off, and I got a job at Sikorsky Aircraft, so I moved back to the area.
Right.
And then, started hanging out with the guys that I went to high school with again back here, and I was hanging out with Kenny Roberts, and he was coaching. He was a defensive coordinator at Shelton at the time. He had started coaching right out of high school.
Yeah.
And I had been out of football for, I think, 5 years. I think it was 94 that I started coaching. I had been out of football 5 years and missed
you basically came right when Joe Bonanto came as the football coach.
Yes.
Because I believe 94 was his first
Joe's
year.
first year was my first year. Yep.
Right.
So I was hanging out with Kenny Roberts. He's like, why don't you come coach? Come coach the secondary. I'm the D coordinator. And I said, sure, I'll try it. I miss football. Growing up, you played football your whole life. I played in high school. I played in college. And then, after college, like I said, okay, I'm going to go out there and make money and get a career. And then, but Kenny asked me to coach, and I says, yeah, I'll try it. I was working at Sikorsky. I had flex time, so I was able to get out early.
Right.
And as soon as I started coaching, I fell in love with it. I knew
right away.
I knew I got the passion back, and that passion for football. And I'd missed those 5 years I was out of the game. It was missing. Something was missing. And then when I got back into coaching, it was like, wow, you get those feelings back of when you played.
Right.
In through coaching, it's different, but it's I enjoy coaching, if not more, as much as playing. And again, first time I started coaching with Kenny and Joe Bonanto, and it was awesome. I fell in love with it right then and there.
And those are two guys that, if you're going to start your coaching career, those are two guys that are great to learn from. Kenny's like a defensive guru, and Joe Bonanto, I believe Joe Bonanto, if he wanted to, he could go out and coach cross country tomorrow, and
Yeah, without a doubt.
he'd figure out a way
Yep.
to win a state title. I mean, the guy's won at all 3 sports he's coached at. We saw what he did at Yale.
Yeah.
Talk about what it was like learning under Joe Bonanto.
Oh, yeah, it was a great experience learning under Joe. I coached under him for 10 years, and I learned a ton about coaching, about organization, everything. I had played for Buddy Amendola in college, and Buddy had, coached with Joe at Yale, or Joe coached with Buddy at Yale. So there was kind of a common bond there. And I had never met Joe Bonanto, actually, until I started coaching in 94.
Oh, really?
Because he had left for Yale when I got to the high school.
Right.
And I had played baseball, and Eddie Morocco had taken over. So I obviously knew of Joe Bonanto, but I had never met him until I started coaching. And then, when I first met him, kind of hit it off, and we were able to talk football. And, I jumped right in there coaching with him. But I learned a lot from him.
Right. And he was the type of coach, too, that he was willing to take suggestions as long as you could explain it to him. If you wanted to run a certain play, he would challenge you and say, okay, tell me how we block it.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, he basically, he wasn't opposed to letting you implement something, but you had to show him how it worked for him to, buy into it. But I think he was teaching you guys too, and that's something, that's important.
No, Joe was tough on his coaches, tough on his players, but that's what great coaches do. But he would listen, if you had suggestions or ideas, you'd have to present them to him, and you better be prepared, because if he didn't like it, he'd rip it apart.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Well, I know Kenny used to always joke that Joe would always say, could we just run base defense? He would always tell him that, could we just run base?
Yep.
But so the 94 season, I believe the team went 4-6. Joe had taken over for Tony Branca, and, the kids were young that year. But then the following year, a magical season in 95 that nobody saw coming. You guys, had a tough loss against Cheshire. I think it was 3-0.
Yep.
But that whole year, you guys were like knocking on the door, and then you capped it off with a state title, I believe, against Trumbull, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. We beat Trumbull 14-7. We beat New Britain in the semifinals.
Right.
Two very tough teams, but that was kind of a magical year. That was my second year coaching, and the first year we were 4-6, and it was kind of unexpected. Nobody expected much out of us, and we had a great group of kids, a group of hard-nosed
Kiley,
kids.
He was a real good leader. Corey
and Darby
Somerville.
and Szynski and Souza and
Yeah.
Corey Somerville and the whole crew. But we had a great group of just hard-nosed kids. I don't think it was the most talented team, but, they somehow got it done. They were tough kids. They played great defense. We were hard-nosed on offense. We ball controlled you and just somehow win those. We won the finals 14-7, and I think the semifinals was 17-7. It was just, tough, hard-nosed, old-school football.
Right. And
I mean,
that Trumbull one was, really exciting. I could still remember Ken Roberts when he realized you guys were going to win. He kind of walked all the way down to the sideline and just kind of pumped his fist because, when you're coaching like that all year and you're working hard like that, you don't always have a good time. Because you're always putting pressure on yourself. So to get that win, it had to be special for each and every one of you.
Yeah, that was a fun year. Again, my second year of coaching, so I was all new to it and back involved in Shelton football, and it was enjoyable for me. Great memories, great friends. The kids that played, I'm still friends with today.
Yeah,
and it was awesome.
And the funny thing is, Coach, you talked about the playoffs. Sometimes it's hard luck. You guys had a 4-year drought where you didn't make the playoffs, but I believe in 98 or 97 you guys had a 8-2 season or an 8-3 season.
Yep.
98 you guys went 7-2-1, and then 99 you go 9-1 and you don't make the playoffs. So I mean, people don't realize that you almost had to back then have a perfect season to get into the playoffs because those were 3 great Shelton teams those 3 years.
Yeah, especially 99. That was Danny Orlowski's junior year.
Right.
We were 9-1.
Yeah.
We lost one close game. I forgot.
I believe was it Cheshire? I think it
may have been Cheshire. Yeah. And I thought that was one of our better teams.
Yeah, and those kids that went undefeated as freshmen. Yep. That was a great group of kids.
Yeah.
But
9-1. I'm glad they expanded the playoffs because. Listen, if you go 9-1, you deserve to be in.
Yeah,
even 8-2.
And that's
that's happened to us a couple times. at Shelton. We went back to my senior year. We went 9-1. Then in '99, we went 9-1 with Danny.
Yeah.
And I think one other time we were 9-1 and didn't get in. So it was nice that they expanded the playoffs to 8 teams, because now if you're 9-1, you're pretty much guaranteed a spot.
Right. And then, of course, fast forward a year later, you guys, I think that was the first Shelton team that went undefeated since 1960, if I do the math. So, you're talking, almost 40 years exactly.
Yeah.
So talk about that special year. I mean, obviously, Danny was a tremendous talent, went on to the NFL, did great things, but that was a great group of kids as well. And that team just, when teams refuse to lose, that's a team I looked at, and they refused to lose.
Yeah, again, we had a bunch of good, hard-nosed kids. We played great defense that year, and Danny just, scored a ton of points. I mean, he was able to throw the ball all over the place. Then we had Mike Kern at tailback, who was a big kid.
Tremendous player.
Next to him, Jamal Moheat was a center. He was a 300-pounder, and it was kind of, we spread it out. Chris Anderson was helping out back then.
Yeah.
He just started coaching, and we kind of went to the 4 wides. That was before the spread,
Yeah.
And we went to 4 wides with Danny, and that was probably the best thing we did that year. Kind of spread everybody out, let Danny throw the ball all over the place, and then as soon as they got people out of the box, we handed the ball off to Kern, and it was, I don't want to say easy, but
right.
we were very difficult to stop. One week I can remember playing a team, and they were like, went to a man under 2 deep coverage. I think it was Hamden, and they were basically said, all right, Danny Orlowski's not going to beat us. And I think Mike Kern had a couple hundred yards rushing, and we were just,
right.
It's just difficult to defend with Danny. I mean, he was obviously the difference
right.
in that team, and the guy to put us over the top. But we had a bunch of great kids on that team.
And, Kenny was gone by then, so were you calling the defense for
Yeah, I was a defense coordinator at that point.
And that has to be a great feeling, I mean, because, like nothing else, and it's unfair to coaches sometimes, but when the team wins, they tend to give the credit more so to the players, which they should, but the coaches do a lot of work. But anytime something tends to go wrong, the coaches get blamed. So, I mean, You're in a no-win situation. So it had to be a good feeling for you to call that defense on a great team like that and, have the year you guys had.
Yeah, it was a good feeling, and, being the defensive coordinator, it was nice. And it was a great feeling. Again, we had a great group of kids, and fun to coach. Kids were hard-nosed kids, and got after it, and a good group of coaches, and we did it together. As a team, the coaches, the players, we were all together on the same page and working together for the same goal.
And, Coach, it's very hard in the league you guys were playing in, the SEC, to go undefeated because you're getting banged up week in and week out. There are no days off. You might play Fairfield Prep. Guess what? You're playing West Haven.
Oh, yeah.
Then you're playing Cheshire. So you're not getting, there is no easy game for you guys.
No, it's been that way ever since I started coaching.
Right.
So I've been in the SEC since '94, since we started coaching, and there's, never an easy season or an easy run of games. It's just, you're battling every week. It's tough to go undefeated in a regular season.
Right. So to do it, it's remarkable.
Yep.
You know what, Coach, I look at the 2003 team, and it's funny because I really believe that in a lot of ways, you never say a loss benefits you, but I really believe if you guys don't lose to Derby in 2002, Coach Bonanto doesn't come back. I don't think he wanted to go out that way. That's just my opinion because I had heard all year he was thinking of leaving. So he comes back for one more year, and again, another magical season. I think you guys went 12-1.
Yep.
And, I mean, that team was so special. I think Billy Mannion, tremendous player. Robbie Thompson.
Yep.
So many great players on that team. Talk about that 2003 team a little bit.
That was another team who, like the other teams, were a special group of kids, just hard-nosed kids. Again, I keep using that same word, but the Billy Mannions, Jeff Norco and Mahalko and Zarnacki at tailback, and just a hard-nosed group of kids. Again, we, our MO is kind of like, try to play great defense and ball control, and that was, Joe Bonanto like doing that and running toss sweep and hard-nosed football and kind of control the game, and that's kind of what we did that whole year. It was just kind of, again, play great defense and then hard-nosed football and control the football and run it down your throat and play action passes and keep control of the game.
Right. So let me ask you this. I know Coach Bonanto didn't announce that he was retiring until, I believe, February. I think he was the type of guy that wanted to make sure all the banquets were out of the way. He didn't want it to take away from the kids. But did he come to you at all during the season and say,
I'm probably going to be leaving at the end of the year, and I want to recommend you for the head coaching job?
We didn't really talk about it during the season.
No.
Joe was the type of guy. We were focused on the season and winning
Right.
and preparing the kids. But then after the season, he did come to me and say, this is it. I'm going to be announcing it at the banquet, and I'm going to, recommend you for the next head coach.
Now, did you want to be a head coach at that point, or you weren't really
At
sure?
that point, yes.
Yeah, so that's amazing.
I was, Joe's that type of guy, and he came to me, and again, he basically handed it down to me,
Right.
And it was nice. Yeah, it was a good feeling getting a head job. I starting out, like I said, out of college, I never even thought about coaching, and then got involved in coaching, and then, bam, next thing you know, 10 years later, I'm the head coach.
Yeah, it's crazy how it works out.
Yeah,
now, let me
you
ask
never
you,
know.
you replaced a legend. I mean, there's no way
Yep.
around it. Did you put pressure on yourself a lot that first season? You had a great year. I think the team went 8-2.
Yeah, we were 8-2. We
Yeah.
just missed out on the playoffs my first year.
Yeah.
And you feel the pressure. I mean, obviously replacing a Joe Bonanto and in the tradition that we had going at Shelton.
Right.
You don't want to let people down. And I got a lot of pride in myself and what I do. So yeah, you do feel the pressure those first couple of years.
And correct me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong, but that was that maybe the first or second year you guys were on turf? Because I think the
Yes.
field.
The field in 2003, we played all our games away.
Right, so
at
that was the
Derby.
first year on a new field, and
Yep.
so you guys were used to playing on grass. Now you're playing on turf. Was there any adjustment for that, or the kids adjusted okay?
No, the kids adjusted fine. It was actually nice because we were able to practice on that turf field the whole year. We used to have to practice up top because we didn't want to ruin the grass field for the game. So it was kind of nice being on that turf field.
Right, and you've had a tremendous run. And we're going to get into some of those great teams, but early on, you proved that you were more than capable of being the head coach. I mean, I think you only had one tough season, and that was a young group of kids. I think
Yep.
that was the 05 season. But
Yep.
if you take that 05 season away, I think year in and year out, your team's won 7 or more games every year, and that's not easy to do in a league you play in. What do you think it is, Coach? Do you think that it starts with the AYF that helps that these kids all play together? Are you a fan of that AYF, or do you think
yeah.
Pop Warner should be?
No, I'm a fan of. I think there's a lot of factors going into the consistency of us winning every year. It's definitely the youth programs. I'm heavily involved in the AYF. I think that was, I loved Pop Warner. I played Pop Warner, and I love it. But AYF, I think, made a difference because now all the heavier kids can play. There
Right.
was no weight limit.
And they play
and
together,
they stayed
so they're-
together. Yeah.
Yeah.
They stayed together as a team. You had a 6th grade team, a 7th grade team, an 8th grade team. I'm involved with the coaches down there, giving coaches clinic. They're running our offense. They're running
Right.
our defense. That's huge. We get them as freshmen. Last year we started 5 sophomores. And I don't, if they didn't come up through our youth program, they wouldn't be ready to go as sophomores.
Right.
So that makes a huge difference. The off-season stuff, the weightlifting and conditioning, the passing leagues. You have to do all that stuff now, and we have a process in place.
Right. And you're pretty much a coach 365 days a year now,
Yeah.
where years ago, when the season ended, there was always weightlifting, but it wasn't what it's become today. So, I mean, it's changed a lot. Now you're a coach all the time. I mean, but it's something you love, correct?
Yeah, you got to love to do it. You got to have a passion for it. If not, you're not going to be able to survive because we do it year round. And I'm fortunate enough. I mean, I'm lucky. I got Coach Dan Dune
Right.
running the weight room for me, and Coach Stanko, and they basically take that over. I go up there and make sure things
Right.
are run, but I don't have to do it. They, and I'm fortunate enough to have those guys. I got a great coaching staff around me, and that's
Right.
that's important. I got Kenny Roberts coaching with me. He's back.
Right. He came back
And,
last year, correct?
Great
Yeah.
group of coaches. We work with the kids year round. And then that's just the process, what we do year after year. And we kind of do the same thing year after year to get the kids prepared for the season. I think that's a big part of the consistency we had winning every year.
Right. So now, was it the 07 team, Coach, where you went to the playoffs for the first time, or was it 06?
It was 06. We went to
Right.
the playoffs with a very young team.
Right, and made the
started a lot of
playoffs.
juniors and sophomores, Jeff Schultz and Kanopka
Right.
and those guys. And we played Southington in the first round up there, and they were really good
Right.
back then. And then the following year in 07, we actually played Southington again, and we beat them at home that year. And we were a much better team in 07. In 06, we were young.
Right.
In 07, we had kind of everybody back, and we beat Southington in the semifinals, and then lost to Greenwich in the finals in a tough game.
Right. And if I'm not mistaken, Coach, and I'm going to talk about the two teams you had in the undefeated in the regular year, recently, but you've been to the playoffs probably 7 times in your career, maybe 8. I definitely think it's 7. I could be wrong, but if I do the math, I mean, you've been there the last 4 years.
The last 4 years, and then we were there in 06 and 07.
Right.
At least 6 times.
Right.
I'm not sure off the top of my head.
And that's not easy to do. I mean, it's very hard. Like I said, you're playing a tough schedule, and that, nobody ever makes excuses, but I don't care when you're playing teams week in and week out. It's hard to not have 2 or 3 losses, never mind none. So, I mean, what is like the goal for you? I mean, Charlie DeCenzo told me when I had him on that state championships are nice, division titles are nice, but he just wanted to have a nice program, a program that was consistent every year. Is that pretty much how you look at things too?
Yeah, we're proud of the program. I'm proud of what we've done, and we go out every year and try to win football games. We want to be a tough, hard-nosed football team, and do the best we can, and we work hard as coaches and players, and kind of don't look at the big picture. Just want to go out there and have the team prepared and ready to go every Friday night and win as many games as we can.
Right.
And do it the right way.
Now, let me ask you this. Are you a fan of the spread offense? I mean, it's evolved so much over the years. It's become, what every team seems to be running. But are you a big fan of the spread offense?
Yes and no.
You have to have the right type of players to run it, right?
It's, we run a variation of the spread. I mean, we're not I want to call us a true spread team. We're still kind of a power football out of the spread. But, I mean, we're mostly 4 wides. We're no huddle. We're wristband. It's just the way the game has evolved, and that's what everybody's doing, and I think it's fun. It's everybody's scoring a lot of points.
Did that take you a little bit to adjust to, like, doing it that way, with the wristbands and everything else?
Yeah. I mean, we were always the old school Shelton football, and
send the receiver and call the play. Yeah.
Yep, and then we went no huddle. I think. Trying to think of what year we went. We went completely no huddle, probably 08, 09 maybe.
Right.
And now once you get used to it, and that's what we run. I can't even imagine going back to a huddle or taking a snap from under center.
Right.
It's just not what we do, and not what most teams do now.
Right. And, Coach, you brought up 08. I think it was the 08 team. It might have been the 09 team. But I remember you went with 2 quarterbacks that year, and that was kind of gutsy to do, but you felt these 2 guys could really contribute. I think it was Mike Burgundy, and I think it was Pendergrass or something like that. And it really worked for you guys. I think those kids got you 7 or 8 wins, and they were both unselfish because neither one really complained about who was getting playing time. They did what was good for the team. But that's not something a coach does all the time. Did you just feel like they both could give you something?
Yeah, we just felt, they were both great kids, and they both could bring something to the table, and they were probably even, competition wise, and we just decided to let's go with a 2 quarterback system. We haven't done it since, and didn't do it before then, but that one particular year, that's the way it worked out, and it worked out well for us. They both played well, and I think again we probably had 7-8 wins that year.
Right. Coach, I think it was the 2011-2012 team. You had 2 great games against Derby back-to-back those years, and I really thought that Derby was, starting to bring that rivalry back a little bit. It was great to see that, it came down to the wire. I know as a coach, you probably don't want a close game like that. You want to win, but, I mean, was it fun at least, like, to see that, for 2 years that rivalry was really good?
That was fun. I remember those games well, and while you're in the games, it's not
tough,
as fun because you're worried about losing and the game's on the line in the fourth quarter. But looking back at them, it's a lot more fun than the blowouts. So I mean, I enjoyed those games, and Derby was tough those years. They had some really, really good teams, a lot of good players, and they played us tough.
Now let me ask you about that Thanksgiving game. Here's the only issue I have with it is that Derby's not in your league anymore. They're in the MVL. And you guys really don't get any points if you win that game. So you guys could be 7-2 going into that game. And even if you win 44-0, you get no points for it. And
you guys could be 9-0, and there's always the chance somebody could get hurt. I mean, are you a fan of still playing Derby despite the fact that you really get no points and that they're in a different league now?
It's that's a tough question because it's a great rivalry. I mean, we've been playing them for a long, long time. It's tough for us. We do lose points. I think one year they may have kept us out of the states, or it was close because we get penalized for playing them point-wise for the state system. We get penalized 30 points for playing them. Because they're not a league opponent. So, that's tough. But I still enjoy the rivalry. I still like playing them.
Right. So now let's talk about 2 magical years, and they really were, Coach. I mean, the 2014 and 2015 team, I think it was Mark Piccirillo. He was your quarterback.
Yep.
And he was a tremendous player. Talk about that 2014 team because, I mean, that was a special team. The 15 team was special too, but that 14 team really came on that year. They had some tough games, and they always found ways to win.
Yeah, again, I mean, Mark Pick was a special player for us. Hard-nosed kid. We put the ball in his hands, and great team. Again, a lot of good kids, a lot of good hard-nosed kids, and they were fun to coach, and it was a great year.
Right. Now let me ask you, with the playoffs the way they are, I think one year they went back to just playing 1 week of 2 games, but now you have to play 3 weeks in a row, I think it is. Let me ask you, I know it's better to have more teams in, but some of these games don't end till almost Christmas. And I think that's a long time for a kid to be playing football. They start in August and they don't finish till almost, December 20th. Are you a fan of how they do it, or do you think it could be done a little better?
It's a tough situation because we can't start the playoffs till after Thanksgiving because of the rivalries, Thanksgiving Day rivalries, and the weather and the other sports starting. So you're stuck with the time constraints there. So you got to kind of jam 3 games into a short period, which is tough. But the other answer is not to have as many teams in. But again, like we talked about in years past, you got 9-1 teams that aren't making it. So it's nice to have 8 teams in there. So if you go 8-2 you're pretty much guaranteed to be in there. But it is tough playing those 3 games. A few years back, I think it was the 15 team. We had all those injuries.
Yeah,
and it was just we played a tough schedule at the end of the year. We had a couple injuries, and then we had to play West Haven. I forgot who else in the semis and the quarters, and by the time we got to the finals, we were down 6 starters.
Right.
So that part is tough, but at least you got the chance to get in there at 8-2.
Right.
Or in years past, if you were at 8-2, you're not in.
Yeah.
So I'd rather have it the way it is now, and just kind of deal with it and hope you don't get those injuries and don't get banged up in those games. But at least you got a shot being in there.
Right. And you talked about the 15 team. Another great group, and I say that because you just alluded to it. You had 6 starters who got hurt. You lost Chris Cannici, I believe, who was a tremendous player for you. Then you lost your quarterback. So many kids stepped up. Another player, Coach, he would have a great year that year for you, and he had a good year on the 16 team, a very special player, David Wells. I mean, that kid seemed like he could do everything. If you said, David, go at tight end, he could do it and play it. If you said go wide out, he could do it. And then he wasn't really a quarterback that, by trade, and you kind of put him into that role when your quarterback went down. Talk about what he meant to that program in the last couple of years.
Yeah, he had a great, I tell you, his senior year, he had a great senior year. I mean, he was
I think he had 22 passing touchdowns, and I think he had 16 rushing. I mean, impressive, just a tremendous player.
Yeah, he made the overall all-state team, and then he didn't play as a sophomore. He wanted to concentrate on baseball.
Right.
And then we got him back as a junior, and he played pretty well as a junior, but then his senior year he just came into himself, and he just he's fast and just was able to throw the ball better, and had a great senior year. He he led us all the way to the finals.
Right. And who were some of the players from those 2 years, Coach, that really impacted that program that you would say, you didn't expect this from them and they really came out and did something well for you?
Yeah, Peter Hoff at tailback and David Wells had a great year. And then we had Cannici at receiver and Robinson and Sammy and Alex Kirk, the Kirk brothers who are at Wesleyan right now playing with Mark Pick.
Right.
We had a lot of skill those years. Our receivers, that was probably the best group of receivers that we've had. They all can run. They were all good-sized kids. They were all fast. They could all catch the ball. So we had a nice group of skilled kids that couple years.
Right. And, Coach, I know everybody wants to win a state title, but I don't think really in those 2 years you could ask for a better season than you got out of those kids. To go 10-0 in the regular season, get to the finals 2 years in a row. And, let's be honest. That Darien team was just tremendous. I don't think anybody was going to beat that team that year. So, those kids did everything they were supposed to do.
Yeah, we went undefeated back-to-back seasons. We were 12-0 going into both final games. That the game against Xavier that we lost down there at the end of the game was a tough loss.
Right.
The following year, we went into that Darien game. They were a tremendous team,
right.
obviously, and then we were down 5 or 6 starters, and it would, that was going to be a tough one. But for us to go, come back after that tough loss against Xavier and come back and go 12-0 next year and go back to the state finals, I think was
with all those starters
a
down
tremendous
too,
accomplishment by those kids and winning those state games with the starters down and getting to the finals. And then again, we ran into that Darien team, which was just a tremendous team that year.
Right. And one of the things that is really remarkable about you is you will not allow a coach, and yourself included, to yell at those kids during the game. You feel like in your mind it's pressure enough they're playing out there. So in practice, that's one thing, but in the games, you just let those kids play.
Yeah, we yell at them a lot in practice, but
right.
on Friday nights you kind of want to build them up or just talk to them. They're out there. There's a lot of pressure on them. We play in front of big crowds and big games, and I don't think as a coach coming off the sideline, if a kid makes a bad play, you want to start screaming and yelling at them. I think
right.
you want to coach them and say, okay, here's a mistake you made. You made a mistake. The kid's probably down on himself to begin with. The last thing you want to do is get down on him more, and just got to build them back up and just say, hey, all right,
right.
just go out there and we talk about it all the time about playing the next play. You're going to make a mistake. You're going to have a bad play, but you got to play the next play 100% and go back out there and get it done.
Right. Now, Coach, a great team last year. I think you guys got to the quarterfinals again, or semis.
Yep.
Semis. It was a very good team. Jake Roberts, tremendous quarterback. Talk about this year's team coming up, because these kids have been playing together since 4th grade, this group of seniors.
Yep.
And they've won titles at AYF, I believe, when they were in 7th grade. They won the
Yep.
title. Talk about this year's team coming up, and who are some of the key players to watch out for?
Yeah, we're really excited about this year's team. Last year we were young. We started all sophomores and juniors. And, we lost the first game to Cheshire, and then we reeled off 9 straight wins after that, which is kind of a shock to a lot of people.
That was tremendous.
A lot of people had us penciled in at 5-5 or 6-4. We're starting all the young kids. But the kids grew during the season and got better and better every week. And, we have the majority of our team back this year. Jake Roberts had a great year quarterback last year.
Right.
We got Jack Carr back at tailback and defense. We got all our receivers back, most of our linemen back. So yeah, we're looking for big things this year. It's going to be an exciting year. These kids have played together, like you said. They've played together since 4th grade. This group of kids, and actually
right.
the group of kids behind them, the juniors, same thing, have played in our AYF program, kind of all together since 4th, 5th grade. So we are looking forward to this year. Our kids have been working hard, and we're excited and ready to go.
Right. And you got, like you said, some other kids, Jake Falenga's been there a long time. Yep. Ray Weiner is one of your captains. I believe Jake Brenton
Brenton's another one of those captains.
Tyler Janick, and then you got Nick Andrade, who's been your kicker,
and
tremendous kicker.
I could
right.
list off a lot of kids, because
you got so many
group of kids.
I even believe you got a kid by the name of Mike Lakovich. He's going to be a sophomore, and he could be something special.
He could be something special.
Kyle
8.5 sacks last year
right.
as a sophomore.
Right.
He's a big kid. Kyle Corby's going to be our
right.
center. Another junior. Yeah, that.
So the future is bright. It's got to be fun for you as a coach to see that there's a lot of talent, and you as a coach you guys as coaches can see what you could do with this talent. It's got to be fun to come to practice every day.
Yeah, we enjoy working with these kids. I've known most of these kids since they were in 4th and 5th grade. I know most of the parents. I've been around Shelton my whole life, and they're a fun group of kids to coach. They know when it's time to come work, and then they come after it in practice, get after in practice. We have a great group of coaches. It's kind of like we're all together. The players,
right.
the coaches, we're all on the same page. It's different than the old days where the coaches are screaming and yelling at the kids, and we're the coach, you're the player. It's more of a a unity thing. We're kind of all together. We're all working together for the common goal. And again, it's fun to come to practice. I've been up in the weight room the last couple of days, talking to the kids, talking to the coaches in the coach's office. It's fun, and that's why we coach. We enjoy being around the kids and the coaches, and kind of have a passion for it. We all have that same passion. The players, the coaches, everybody.
Right. Now, about 15 years ago, when you started your first year, you mentioned you played all your games away, or 2003 team. Right. I'm sorry. Let me ask you: will Shelton be able to play on their field this year? Will it happen?
Well, that's out of my control, but yes, the way it looks now,
looks like it's coming along. It's coming
really
along
good. Pretty well. We had a couple snags, but it looks like it's coming along pretty well, and we're shooting for hopefully September 1st, maybe September 15th. Worst case, October 1st. So we may have to play a few games away.
At home
our first 3 games are at home. Yeah, our athletic director John Niski has already secured Trumbull High School for Saturday nights if we have to play them away.
Right.
So we'd probably play at Trumbull High School those first 2 home games. That would kind of be the worst case scenario, but we'll be on the field at some point.
Right, and I'm glad you brought him up. Niski, he's a great athletic director. He's done a lot of great things at Shelton. Very easy to work with.
Yeah, John and I have a great relationship. I've worked with him for a lot of years. We were tech ed teachers together back when I first started teaching in '94, and we have a great relationship. He's a great AD. He's very supportive of football and all the sports at Shelton High School, and he's easy to talk to and reasonable, and we yell and scream at each other in the office at times, but we get along well.
Right. So let me ask you this, Coach. It's hard to look ahead, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but 5 years from now, do you think you'll still be coaching in some capacity?
I take it year by year now. I got 2 little boys. I got 6-year-old twins at home.
Nice.
And my wife is very supportive. I'm lucky that she's very supportive of me coaching. So I'm kind of taking it year by year right now. Again, I still have the passion for it. I still love doing it. I love being around the coaches and the kids. So I've been asked that question many a time, and I kind of give everybody the same answer. I still love doing it, and I still have a passion for it. When that stops or that ends, or I'll probably stop coaching, or we got to see with my kids and where things go in the next few years, because they're getting a little older and getting involved in sports, and I've been doing this for a long time. But right now, I take it year by year.
Right. So, Coach, before we wrap up here, I have a 2-part question. Number one, what has always been your ultimate goal for this football program? And then number 2, what has been the most rewarding thing for you as a head coach?
The ultimate goal is to just, year in and year out, have this team ready to play football and have the respect of everybody in the state. And you hear Shelton football and everybody thinks, oh, wow, that's a great program. And that's something that I'm proud of and I take pride in. That year in and year out, we're a top-notch program and we do things the right way. Our kids are out there, they're playing football the right way, they're learning about the game and about life the right way from a great group of coaches. And that to me is the most important thing. That if you send your kid to Shelton High School and they're going to play football, 4 years from now, they're going to come out with a great experience. And again, it's like a group of kids and have coached years ago, and it's kind of we're all together. The Shelton football family, we call it, and that's probably something that I'm most proud of our program. That year in and year out, we can produce teams and winning teams and do it the right way.
Right. Well, Coach, I want to thank you for coming on today. It was a real honor, and what you guys have done with this program. After Joe B left, what you've done the last 15 years. Keeping it one of the best programs in the state. I really applaud you. I think your coaching staff, they work so hard. You guys work so hard to make this a great program, and you guys really are a credit to the Valley and the state of high school football, and I want to thank you for coming on today.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure. And
that was Shelton football coach Jeff Roy. For Valley Sports Rewind, I'm Mike Cannici saying goodbye, everyone.